can help support the channel by heading to our merchandise store and picking up some of our great aircraft designs created by our graphic designer. We have everything from fighters to transport aircraft, which you can choose to have printed on t-shirts, mugs, stickers and much more. Head to the description below and click the links and pick up your design today. Thank you and enjoy. Did you ever work with the GR boys and get their input and like on the jet or anything like that?
Yes, yeah. Well, to start with, for a start, a number of chaps on my staff had been ex-Phantom and Lightning, who'd gone to the GR1 tornadoes, instructing at Honington or at Cottesmore. They came to me, so we had that experience coming in. And on the engineering side, we had engineers that come from them as well. I did go down and I flew several times with the GR boys. In fact, because, for example, we started from scratch and there was nobody to do my instrument rating exam. So I did it with a GR1 chap in the aircraft.
Wow.
And then I flew in a GR1 to get my, because I was also appointed the command instrument rating examiner.
Oh, right.
So that's how we started that off, you know. So I and one or two others, we had to get the qualifications to then sort of be able to impart those qualifications to others on the unit. So there was a sort of, you know, a chain of events. So yes, we did link with the GR1 chaps. Obviously they're in a totally different role, but the aircraft was basically the same. Well, like I say, we had 25 wing, 45 wing, 53 wing and 67 wing, I think it was. Most of the time, when you go slow, when you're in the circuit, whatever, you're in 25 wing. And we had one thing I would say there I liked, the manoeuvre flaps we had on the wing were very effective. They made a big difference. We had speeds. There were speed changeovers. It wasn't automatic, and if you missed it, like I say, it wasn't the end of the world. You did get a message pretty quickly through your seat of your pants, and then you'd move the wings. Yeah. I didn't find it a problem at all, and that just reminded me about one thing that was very different. Of course, we were all now flying an aircraft, unlike the Phantom and the Lightning, which had a head-up display. Liked the head-up display greatly. I can honestly say that in all the aircraft I've flown in my career, I found the Lightning really the most comfortable, the Tornado, the most comfortable cockpit of the lot. The cockpit environment was great as far as I was concerned, and it was very quiet, very quiet in there. That was what I felt. I felt, and the aircraft being easy to fly. It was a very comfortable aircraft to fly.
Yeah, I've heard that before. And yeah, with the F2, I have to ask this: did you have a place for your sandwiches?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where was that?
I can't remember. There was down here a little box or something like that you could put things in. But yeah. I mean, we used to go to Cyprus, obviously, and around. Yeah, where we'd have sandwiches, and you would need it. We'd need it. And the other thing was, of course, you had cockpit voice recorder in the aircraft, yeah. Which you didn't, where you could also play
music.
Of course, one or two problems, but music could be played.
Yeah.
The other thing about the Tornado as such, the TV screens, two in the back, one in the front, but we could switch from radar or to the other one, which was situational awareness. I found that the TV displays were good. The radar was fine looking at it, but the situational awareness one on that screen was very good, I thought. You know, you could build up a picture from that. And if you had one of the data link aircraft, of course, that would also paint onto that too. Well. It was easier to fly than the Phantom. Easier to fly. Yeah, it was easier to communicate.
Right.
The head-up display was a big advantage. The TV tabs were great, really, from what they could do. The cockpit better than the Phantom. I mean, if you look at the capability, I mean, the Lightning to the Phantom to the Tornado should have been, you know, every time it was an increase in use of technology. The fact that when the Tornado first came in, we had problems with it, does not negate the capability of the Tornado. And I've heard Lightning pilots say it, who've flown Lightnings, Phantoms and Tornadoes. And I say it, when people say to me, which aircraft would you want to go to war in of the three? And the answer every time is Tornado. Every time.
Yeah, because it's the most capable, I guess. But like, there was one on the runway, let's say an F2 Phantom and Lightning. Which one are you going to take for one last ride?
Well, knowing what the one last ride, oh, Lightning.
Lightning.
Because that was my first aircraft, and it was a rocket.
Yeah. But you must be as proud as like going onto the F2 and you leading it into the RAF as flying the Lightning as well, because it was it's a big deal.
I loved flying the Tornado. I did. It was a delight to fly, quite frankly. It would have been an even greater delight if the engines had more puff.
And did they get more puff eventually? The F3s?
They did. When we went to the first Gulf War, the engines were changed.
Yeah.
To engines that had more capability at various levels. But several times it was looked at sort of changing the engines, but it was obviously going to be too expensive.
Of course,
So, I mean, they would obviously be improved as it went on, but I don't think the Tornado, the lack of puff in the medium levels was ever sort of properly removed. I mean, the Tornado was fantastic at low level. It was the fastest of them all at low level. It was a hot ship down there. With the wings back, it was a rocket.
Very slippery, wasn't it?
It was very slippery. In the medium levels, it lacked puff. Now that did sort of obviously, you know, when you're fighting a battle, when you're doing combat and things like that, you've got to know your adversary's capability and know your capability, and you adjust your tactics to use your aircraft to best effect against his capability. That's what you do. You can't change what you've got. You've got to use what you've got to best effect. And that's what you do. Supersonic. So low level Tornado was fantastic, and supersonic I thought it was all right.
Just all right there.
No, it was. When you got supersonic, I found that it leapt away. You get the wings back, and it did.
So, let's stick on the F2 here. Did it accelerate quite quickly compared to the Lightning and Phantom down low, or was it a slow move until you got supersonic?
Oh, down low?
Yeah, let's say on the deck, 250 feet.
All three down there. All three. When you accelerate at low level, you get a kick up the backside.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I'm just trying. You know, this is a dim, distant past now. Certainly, I think the Tornado, as I remember, was probably sort of gradual, and then it would leap away. It was all right as far as I was concerned. Well, you know, obviously, you're trying to integrate people. Maybe there were a number of Lightning guys did complain quite heavily. I think you probably know that. And actually there were some Phantom guys who complained quite heavily too. You probably know that too. So there's all that to contend with. I mean, obviously sort of being boss of the outfit, as far as I was concerned, everybody sort of came in. I was aware of but I mean, more than aware. I mean, they would tell me straight to my face. Some would.
That's the best way, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that. I don't have a problem with that. But like I say, we were all in it together, and there were problems there. And as far as I'm concerned, when you've got problems, you've got to work out a way of how to solve them, which is what happened in the end. Now, so what thing like in the crew room? I'm sure the answer to that one's really got to come from the boys rather than me, because you can be sure that if I was in the crew room, they'd probably be sort of acting differently from what if I wasn't in the crew room.
Absolutely, yeah. So Rick, can you talk us through the Spitfire Tornado Synchro display?
Oh, I certainly can. Yeah, that came about. I'd only been back at, I'd been flying the aircraft for a few months, and back at Coningsby, and my air officer commanding, Ken Hare, called me at home one night and said, Rick, I've got a good idea. It's the 50th anniversary of the Spitfire this year. It would be great if we could do some sort of synchronized display with the old and the new, with the Spitfire and Tornado F2. So what do you think? I said, I don't need to think, so I said I'm all for it. So anyway, we went away and I got together with the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, Paul Day, known as the Major, flying the Spitfire, and we put together a little display which we decided we could do. Spoke to the AOC and he agreed it, and that's how it all started. Now, I was the squadron commander. There were only 2 pilots qualified on the aircraft at this stage, myself and Chris Stevens. And as I recall, cycling back from the bar one Friday night after happy hour, Chris fell off his bicycle and was concussed and was off flying for a little bit. Then there was only one. Now, as squadron commander, I wouldn't normally have done this, but since there was only one, I was going to do it. So that's how I came to do it.
I mean, tell us about that picture. I'm going to put it in for our viewers now, but that was an amazing.
That's a lovely picture. That was taken by Andy Lister Tomlinson, who was a great photographer, one of my chaps, one of my squadron leaders on the OCU. Lovely man, very capable. He took that, so I've just got to mention his name with that photograph.
Of course.
But it was a lovely photograph. It was a great year. The display was much acclaimed. It was, I mean, it's been done since, but this was it only happened for a year. At the end of the year, I remember right at the end of the year, I was displaying at RAF Lucas, and the Air Force Board were there, and I think a lot of people sort of wondered how the Tornado was capable of flying in formation with the Spitfire. But then, because a lot of these people had flown the Lightning and the Phantom, which wouldn't have been able to do it the same way. But with the Tornado, with the wings forward and you could put manoeuvre flap down, it wasn't a problem at all. Anyway, so it only happened that one year, full time. When I say full time, I mean, you know, with a full season of displays. It didn't happen again, but it has happened again since. It would happen again periodically, and still happens with the Typhoon. But as far as I was concerned, my display that year was the very first Tornado Spitfire synchro display. How did we do it? Well, I had all the speed to play with, so basically we coordinated it by Paul, the Major in the Spitfire. He'd call where he was. I mean, I couldn't see him. Then I'd know where he was. He'd call, then I knew exactly where he was, and that was my cue. Then, if I had to go faster, and I did sometimes, I'd go faster. And if I had to slow down, I'd slow down, and that would sort of synchronise it. So I was responsible for getting the synchro right from the speed point of view. The only other thing to mention is he was rightly concerned about vortex from the Tornado. So we always made sure there was a 200-foot height difference between us on any crossovers. That was to avoid any problems with that. And we'd cross over, and sometimes I was close to 600 knots. You know? So I was going like a dingbat. But you could do that in the Tornado at low level. It went like a, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed that year. But of course, that was another little extra thing on top of trying to build up the OCU and what have you. But it was another achievement, and it was gave me a lot of satisfaction, and also put the aircraft into the public eye as well, which all helped. So it was a memorable year, and still gets remembered now.
Rick, how many hours did you actually get on the F2?
On the well, on the Tornado as a whole, just over 1,000. On the F2, I would think probably between a third and a half of that on the F2.
Nice. I mean, it's a bit of a special club to be a part of, the F2, because it's, it's
there aren't
not
many.
Much talked about.
There aren't many of us.
Yeah. Dave Glehill was a nav, wasn't he?
Yeah. Oh, Dave was one of navs, and a fantastic navigator too. Yeah, he was my backseater on one or two of the overseas trips, especially chosen.
That's brilliant stuff.
As were other people like I mean they were all good. I had a really great team. Yeah, no complaints about any of them. They were good.
But thanks for sharing your time on the F2. But Rick, what are you currently up to? Any books in the work?
Well, I've written 2 books so far.
Yeah.
My autobiography and the second book was called Nat Boys, which was both books I think have been great successes, quite frankly. And my publishers asked me to write another 2 now. I'm writing one this winter about my father, who was a Battle of Britain pilot and fought in many theatres in the war. And this here's his logbook, in fact.
I'll see some pictures in this, some great pictures coming up.
yeah. There's, for example, if I can find it, there are pictures here of aircraft that he'd crashed. I always thought he had two crashes, in fact, 2 prangs, but I now know that he had 3.
3?
Yeah, a ferry battle in France, because when he was in France, he spent the first 9 months of the war in France flying ferry battles, in fact. Most of whom, I mean, I'm surprised he even survived that. But he was evacuated from there. Yeah, I mean, he's got, where he's scored kills, you can see them in this book here, in his logbook.
How many kills did he get altogether?
I don't know. He's an ace.
He's an ace?
He's an ace.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
That's got 5+?
That's 5+.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got more than 5. He's got, and there's a swastika there, a swastika there, swastika there.
And do you know the title of the book?
Swastika there. That's 4 for a start.
Wow.
Swastika there, 5.
Only 3 pages in.
And then there's one particular, which I note, where he has got 2 swastikas.
And that's in one sortie, I think you mentioned.
That's on one sortie. Yeah. So there's 6, 7 for a start, and that's without going into any great detail here.
And were you, this is why you find this, were you aware like your dad did all this when you were growing up? Or did you ask him questions? Did you
No, well I did. I probably I'm a lot more aware now, obviously.
Yes.
And I wish I had. I mean, he died far too young, in fact. And of course, I left South Africa. He lived in South Africa. I left South Africa when I was 20. I joined the RAF in South Africa, and they shipped me across. and I'm still here. And all my family still live in South Africa, in fact. So I used to only see him every 2 years or so.
Got you.
And or what I will say, like most people in the war, he never talked about it. If we'd had a few glasses of wine, glass of port, or what have you, I might get something out of him. But also I blame myself as well, because when I was young, I didn't think of really probing him as much as I do now.
Yeah,
I mean, I just love to have him sitting there, and I could talk to him about that would help me write the book hugely, because I've had to do a lot of my own research into this, which has been quite illuminating in the process as well. I think, for example, I had no idea that they existed, but I got from my cousin in South Africa over 60 letters written by my father to her mum, his sister, in World War II.
Amazing.
Which are really quite illuminating, and will help me write the book over this winter, and then I'm going to write a book about the Lightning, because I've been asked to.
Your experiences on the Lightning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So where can we expect to find it? Will it be like self-published, or are you going to?
No, I've got my publisher So when do I expect? I think the book about my father, all being well, and on time, should be published in the late summer next year. And I would think the book about the lightning probably won't come until the spring of the year after.
So what's your writing process like? Like how many hours a day do you do, or do you just do it when you
I don't have any. I do it when I feel like it. I mean, I've got a program to do. I never thought I'd write one book, quite frankly, because I say to people, I'm just a lazy fighter pilot, quite frankly.
I like that.
And I don't like writing. But quite frankly, when I did write my autobiography, I actually quite enjoyed it. When I got into the writing, and in doing so, it took me into the depths of my thinking. I really enjoyed it. And once I got going, I couldn't stop. So it's getting going that's the big problem. When am I going to do it? I don't know, but it'll be done over the winter months and in this man cave. And I suspect that, as with my autobiography, a lot of it will be written in the early hours of the morning, because if I wake up at 3:30, something like that in the morning, my mind will be active. I'll get up, I'll come across here. To me, that's the best time of the day. There's no interruptions, no interference. I can just get stuck in and really write. And I might write until lunchtime that day. I might just write for a few hours. It all depends.
All depends, yeah.
But I do work, as with anything in life, I've always found I work best under pressure. And if I've got a deadline to meet, I'll meet it.
Exactly, yeah.
Even if I've
got to get this done.
And I'll meet a deadline, but I'll put in the process. I'll probably put pressure on myself, because I'll be a bit of a lazy chap to start with, and then I think, oops, I'm running out of time, and that'll put pressure on me.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Rick, where can our viewers find your current books online?
Amazon.
Is that the best way to go?
That's the best way. Yeah.
Right.
They're both available on Amazon. Rate of Climb, and in fact, Rate of Climb has just been republished in softback version.
Oh, right. Is it really?
With a new cover on it. Funnily enough, and the new cover has got a lightning on the front. My publisher's idea, not mine.
Brilliant stuff. Rick, thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing a bit about your time on the F2 and your upcoming books.
It's as always, and we've known each other for quite some time now, and I really congratulate you on what you've achieved, quite frankly. But it's a great pleasure, as always.
Cheers, Rick.